Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL Draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and always joined in by my prospect experts here at the Hockey Writers, Dayton Reimer and Peter Baracchini. Guys, we've had a couple weeks since we've had an episode, but Peter, you just released your latest rankings, your preseason rankings that you usually do every year. That was about a week or a week and a half ago that you put that out. So we're going to go through that. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but it's great to unwind and then have to come back and then, get set for the draft year and the prospect talk. So, it's a nice little break, but now the grind actually begins once again. So, you know what? Let's kick off 2025, kind of with a bang kind of thing.
For sure. I mean, I guess we could say this is officially season 5, episode 1. Are we in season 4? I can't remember. It's been at least 4 seasons. I think we may be season 4. It is season 4, episode 1. So it's been a fun run as we go with the Prospect Corner here. Peter, you've been here since the beginning. Dayton, you're into what? This is probably season 2.
I think it's just season 2 for me.
Yeah. So how's it going?
It's good. Yeah, I'm happy to be back for a second season. This is fun.
Yes, it's been a nice run here. So let's just jump right in and talk about your preseason rankings, Peter. And as a top 32, and this is after all the Hlinka Gretzky and all the other stuff that's happened before that, and maybe you've changed your rankings a bit since your early ones. So let's kick that off with your top 10. Let's go through the top 10 here, or top 5, before we get to the rest of that.
Yeah, definitely some movement from my way too early top 32, because that's, that was a post 2024 draft, getting a good look in at 2025 based on what I've already seen. But as you said, there's going to be some movement, but not so much up at the top. And number 1 is still James Hagens, who's going to be a Boston College freshman this year. Pretty much the presumptive number 1 overall pick at this point, but it's not really set in stone because there's still a lot of competition behind him. But the way that he processes the game, the creativity, the high-end skill, the way that he's always like 2 steps ahead of his competition, it's hard not to have him at the number 1 spot. So he takes the top spot heading into the season. Number 2, it's pretty much still the same. I still have Porter Martone of the now Brampton Steelheads, formerly known as the Mississauga one. I'm going to have to get used to saying that. Had a really fantastic season with the Steelheads. Obviously, internationally, it started off with the Hlinka Gretzky and then ended off with the U18s, where he was just absolutely dominant with Gavin McKenna. But the combination of the skill set, the size, the speed, the work ethic, the tenacity that he brings, he's an overall workhorse and a winger that really would thrive at the next level. 71 points. Decent production. Now it's going to see if he could elevate that to this season. I really do think that he can, because Brampton's going to be one of the top teams in the OHL this year. At 3, still, I still have Anton Frondel from Your Gardens, Your Gardens IFJ20. There's really nothing you can't say bad about Frondel. Exceptional two-way game, great size, great awareness. The fact that he's, still young and that he's able to play at a high level, way above his age range. It gives promise that he could really translate to the next level and be a factor. Already has pro experience, seems to be miles ahead of where his age group is at. Really reminds me of Leo Carlson at this point heading into the season because of that maturity factor. He's still number 3, but at number 4, Matthew Schaefer comes into my top 5. Hlinka Gretzky, top defender, no doubt about it. The poise, the confidence, the mobility, the two-way game. even when he panics under or where there's kind of like a, iffy moment, he doesn't panic. He regroups, he recuperates, and he's always gets back into position. So he's really solidified or started to, make himself as the top defender in this year's draft. And at number 5 is Ivan Ryabkin. Um, it's hard to, when people were saying Matvei Michkov is probably going to fall, Ivan Demidov is probably going to fall. You can't let Ivan Ryabkin fall because he has the same dynamicism, the same skill set, the hands, a little bit more of an edge, I think. I think he has that little bit more tenacity and physicality to his game than maybe Mishkov or Demidov, but the skill set is really, really on point with the his two predecessors in the previous 2 drafts. So great playmaking, swift, powerful release. He's the reason why he's still going to be in my top 5, and I don't think he'll ever leave out or move past that point.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how, especially Porter Martone does in the OHL in his second season, because he did have a pretty good one. I mean, 71 points is pretty decent to start. And then, in draft year is the one where you really see where they are, and then probably solidify that part of the, that ranking. So yeah, it's a really impressive top 5. We'll see how much more movement there is as we keep going through the season, because of course there probably will be. It's not really a set first overall, really. I mean, it's not Macklin Celebrini.
Kind of a penciled in kind of situation.
Yeah, penciled in right now, because I mean, Macklin Celebrini, even at this point last season, we weren't 100% sure he was going to be first overall. Then he kind of just pulled away as the season went on. And Hagens is going to have the similar chance in college to see if he can do something similar. Although Celebrini was really impressive. I bet, he could definitely do it too. Dayton, what do you think about this top 5? Schaefer moving into that top 5. I mean, the other positions didn't really change, but what do you think about the upper part of this ranking?
I don't think there's a lot that you can complain about. It's a really solid top 5. I think Schaefer deserves to be up there. Ryabkin, Frondell, Martone, Hagens. Yeah, I would not be surprised if it ended up that way, but that's maybe a little bit of a bold claim, seeing as it's September. It feels like that's a really solid top group, and they've demonstrated a lot of high-end skill so far. This season will now test whether they can keep that high-end skill kind of at that same level. I don't have a lot of doubts. They seem to be really solid players. I don't know if it's quite as interesting as last year's group. I think some of the top guys are better, but I think it might have a bit of a quicker drop off.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, that's very, very early on here, but 2 OHLers in that top 5 right now, which is great. I mean, there of course a lot of talent coming up from the OHL last season too, but they're always strong, and the season hasn't started yet for these guys, so we don't have any sample size for this season yet. But they have had their tournaments already to see. Like Schaefer has already upped his stock by his Hlinka Gretzky there too. So, right, Peter, go through the rest of your top 10 there.
Yeah, coming in at number 6 is Michael Misa from the Saginaw Spirit. OHL, not OHL, but Memorial Cup champ. As we saw in May. Obviously, he's taken big steps every single season in terms of production. Now it's going to be that point where can he elevate it? Can he be a big time point producer? Because he has the skill, he has the swiftness, he has the soft hands in tight spaces, the speed and agility, the playmaking awareness. It's now we just want to see a little bit more, and can he be more than, just not going to say 70 points is average production, but this is his draft year. He's going to have to elevate up just a little bit more than what we've seen in the past. Again, it's hard to imagine a exceptional status player outside of the top 5. But, he could easily push his way in if he does have a hot start and the production is high. So he comes in at number 6. Number 7 is Logan Hensler from the USA Teen or U18 National Team Development Program. My second best defender. I really love his ability to showcase his smarts, the quick transitional play, the ability to lead a breakout and take charge offensively every single time. He's very, very dangerous when he gets going to his top speed. and he's not afraid to take those chances. So big body, right shot defender. Teams are definitely going to love that. At 8 is Caleb Desnoyers from the Moncton Wildcats. Um, Probably going to be a battle between him and Roger McQueen, which we'll get to very soon, about being basically the top power forward in this draft, or not necessarily power forward, because I think Porter Martone is kind of up there a little bit. But who's going to go higher, Desnoyers or McQueen? Right now, I have Desnoyers, but that could change. But you got to love the patience, you got to love the IQ, the positioning, the high end skill, and the ability to crash the net constantly. I think he's going to do very well this season. He comes in at number 8. At 9, Cole Reshney from the Victoria Royals really took an opportunity at the Helenka Gretzky Cup and ran away with it. Really, many thought that, or his height was going to be a factor, but he's now at 5'10", 183. I believe he was around 5'9", 160, 170 heading into the season, but he's added some strength. I think with his skill, the patience, the edge work that he has to fend off attackers and defending players, he could really attack the middle of the ice, and he's very dangerous when he gets in there. So he bumps in, or he goes into my top 10. And at number 10, Roger McQueen from the Brandon Wheat Kings. Already off to a hot start, 4 goals in 1 game, 6 points in 2 games overall to start the WHL season. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how he's going to just make the WHL his own, basically. He's basically at the top, or if he's going to continue this, he's going to be the number 1 threat offensively, and he's already showcasing that. He's got the power, he's got the physicality, he's already got the NHL size. Decent shot. There was 1 goal where he was down low and he just gets it over the shoulder of Jackson Unger, I believe. Really nice goal. I think he's definitely going to move up. 10 may seem a little bit low, but it's the start of the season. I wouldn't be doing my part or my job if he was going to be there at 10. He's probably going to move up next time around, but yeah, just an absolute tank, bull in the china shop kind of player, because he is always intense and he never takes his foot off the gas. So Roger McQueen comes in at number 10.
Yeah, McQueen's been pretty impressive to start the season. 4 goals in 1 game there. That's a pretty good start. If he can keep, I mean, obviously not going to get 4 goals a game all the time, but he's already started out the season really well and could, move up for sure if he continues that throughout until your next rankings too. So, some pretty impressive. Again, you got a couple WHLers in that top 10 now. There are 2 OHL, a QMJHL one, which there's not a lot. There weren't many last season, which is already great to see. And then that's actually a really good mix of leagues in there. You've got some Europeans, you've got representatives from all 3 CHL, teams too. So that's just pretty good. A good variety there. Dayton, what do you think about that top 10? I know you did a WHL early top 10 rankings of the WHL draft eligibles. So there's 2 in there. What do you think about the rest of the top 10?
I feel like you guys are going to hear me say this a lot this season. I think you're too low on Roger McQueen.
That's why I said don't be surprised if he does move up.
Yeah, I've been saying this for a little bit. You can go back in my Twitter mentions. I think McQueen is destined to be a top 5 pick. He just has that size that NHL teams love, and he knows how to score. And yeah, last season already he was showing off that he was one of the top guys. I was able to watch him once. I believe that was against the Regina Pats that I saw the Wheat Kings play. Pretty solid, wasn't dominant, still finished the season with 21 goals, 51 points, 53 games. This season, he's showing that he is the guy. And you can't keep up that pace of 4 goals in a game. But he's going to try his best. He's going to use that 6'5" frame to just be a menace. And I think he's going to be a very dangerous WHL player, maybe a little bit of a throwback WHL player.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd also love Reshney. I think he's well-deserved in the top 10 for now. Not as good of a start to the WHL season as the others, but I think he'll pick it up. I don't think the Victoria Royals have as strong of a team as the Wheat Kings from my recollection. So he might struggle to adapt a little bit. And then I also really like Caleb Desnoyers. I think he is a fantastic prospect, really, really intriguing. Unfortunately, I don't have quite as much access to the queue. Otherwise, I'd love to watch more of him. He's really interesting.
Yeah, it's the Q. Well, what's great is there's a QMJHL player in that top 10 when there was like no one really we were talking about
Mhm.
for draft, especially the first round for the QMJHL. So it's great there's already one that potentially could be a top 10 pick. And we'll be watching maybe the Q a bit closer this season to see if there's any more. Peter, let's talk about some risers from your last rankings. Were there any that kind of stood out as being a big riser from your last ones?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very tough because there were a lot of risers this time. In terms of who I had initially in my way too early top 32. Um, Trying to pull that up very quickly. So there are again quite a few names there. I'm gonna have to probably pinpoint um some of the names that were at the U18 championship. Mainly Victor Klingzel. I really came away impressed with his tournament. You really shouldn't put too much stock into one tournament because who knows how the season is going to progress. But he deserves to be in my top 20 as a result. Really led the tournament in scoring. Really dominated the J18 level. He's very smart. Doesn't force plays. He's very patient in regards to taking his time and finding the open lanes to strike. I really came away impressed with him. Alex Huang. Again, I thought aside from Matthew Schaefer on Team Canada, I really liked his play. He was very composed, very smart. He's really got the IQ and playmaking abilities. And he picks the spots very well. So he moved into my top 20, where I probably didn't even have honorable mentions at the time. So yeah, so he's a big riser at this point. Um, Really came away impressed as well with Milton Gastrine. I really like the power forward game that he has. He uses that size to his advantage. He crashes the net very well. Again, he was on that top line with Sweden. I really thought that both him and Klingzel, I think they're going to battle it out as kind of like that second or third top Swede as a result. And the other one I'm going to mention is Brady Martin. Really like the playmaking game. Kind of like Jetlachenko last year. He was kind of my guy that I was trying to get everyone on the hype train for. Philadelphia Flyers kind of liked it as well because they took him very early. And Brady Martin kind of feels like that type of player in regards to Lachenko, where he's got the speed, the playmaking awareness, the vision, and the ability to go in on the attack. He's just relentless. His motor never stops. Really thought that he had a good tournament, very, very strong playmaker, and I think he's going to, surpass the 28 points that he had last season this time around because he's really got, the whole entire package as a center, and I think he's going to elevate his game with the Sioux Greyhounds this year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how many more of those kind of rise even more as your next one goes or fall. I mean, that could happen too. But I mean, there is a lot of again, lots of great talent in this draft class again. And I mean, like you said, Dayton, it may drop off a bit faster than the last one, but you never know, right? What do you think about this risers? Anyone that you kind of saw rise up the rankings a bit from the last one?
Yeah, you're stretching my memory here a little bit.
Oh, and I didn't even mention William Moore too. So he was another one that
Well,
rose pretty high. So
I mean, it's always there's so much change between the
Mhm.
preseason and the way too earlys, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be my bet is at least 10 different names when we come out with like a midterm
Oh,
ranking.
yeah.
It's always going to change a ton, and
yeah.
that's exciting, right? You get all these
Yeah.
really good prospects, and now that I'm really looking at some of these names that you forget about some of the guys
Mhm.
that you don't focus on entirely. Um, yeah, definitely. I don't think as deep of a or it's not as high of a ceiling as last year's draft. I think you had some really, really high end guys in the top end, and then he had a bit of a drop. I don't know if he reached that this season. And then of course it's going to drop off a little bit. When I was looking at the WHLers though, and I can imagine this goes for most of the other leagues, it's like the talent still keeps going well into the second round. Like those are guys that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on. So as I look through this list, I'm just looking for guys like where's this one guy? He should be in the first round.
Yeah. It is. I mean, especially when you're focusing on one league too, it's like it's interesting to see where it kind of, and it's hard to tell now where it's going to drop off because even in the last draft, I think we were kind of anticipating certain places, and then all of a sudden it was kept going. And you're looking at some of the players now when you look back at the draft. I mean, we already say there's certain players that shouldn't have gone where they were, and it's like it is interesting to see, and we'll of course talk about throughout the season too. Peter, what about fallers? Did you see anyone drastically fall? I mean, of course, there was not much to really kind of go off to say, oh yeah, he's going to drop. Most likely it was just because other guys rose, why these guys fell. But was there anyone that you kind of saw that fell a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough because everyone basically fell maybe like 1, 2, 3 spots
Mm.
max. So it's not really one to be very concerned about. I like Malcolm Spence. I kind of had him in my top 10, kind of dropped a little bit because I just came away impressed with the likes of Denoye, Reshny, McQueen, William Moore a little bit more.
Mm.
But that's not to say that he's still can't move back into the top 10 because he's definitely very much worthy of being a top 10 pick. With the speed, the two-way game, again, kind of can he elevate his level of play on that Erie Otters team with Matthew Schaefer on the back end?
Mm.
Yeah, same with Jakub Eves Wozniak. I think he was a little bit higher in my way too early than he is right now. Believe he was in at 11, now at 15. Again, kind of not a big drop off anyways, but um yeah, it's really tough right now when it's just the
Mm.
start. I think we'll get a better clear of who's kind of dropped in the midterm rankings when I
Mm.
come out with like a top 64. Then we'll get a better picture of that. But usually, right now, basically everybody's pretty much status quo where it's
Mm.
not a whole lot of movement. I could maybe say that maybe Jake O'Brien is the biggest faller because he didn't quite have the best tournament. And that isn't to say we shouldn't put too much stock in there because he is definitely a first round talent. He's very smart. He's got a very solid two-way game. He's a very effective and creative playmaker. He's still there in my top, basically top 32, top 30. Again, he probably fell a little bit more because everybody else rose up with, kind of were entered the mix with like, Cameron Schmidt, Radim Merka, Adam Benak looking very smart,
Mm.
very strong, Emil Gite, Jackson Smith. The list goes on and on about other players that I really had more of an impact, but that's not to say that he's not going to fall past the second or past the first round because he's very, very much worthy of being a first round pick.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough to say with the fallers. It's because they fell, but most likely it's because other guys rose, and it's not really a drastic drop off when they do move. Yeah, I think the fallers are more pronounced when you start looking at bigger sample size over half a season or whatever. And we'll look at that when the mid rankings come out, and NHL Central Scouting puts out their players to watch list, which comes out first. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, Dayton, let's talk about some. Maybe we'll focus on the WHL for you because I mean, you're immersed there. You're credentialed with the Saskatoon Blades. So, is there anyone in the WHL you're going to be watching this season? It can be draft eligible. It can also be just prospects that have already been drafted. Anyone you're really watching this season?
Yes. I mean, there's going to be a bunch that I'm going to keep my eye on. I think one of the ones that I find most interesting is the Moose Jaw Warriors' Lyndon Lakovic. He has got a little bit of first round consideration. Not a ton. I think highest I've seen is maybe 30, 28, something around there. Um, And he doesn't really have the stats last season to, give him that kind of consideration. Watching him play, he might be one of the smartest guys on the ice at all times. The way he is able to position himself and his skating and his work ethic, like he was everywhere he needed to be exactly when he needed to be. There was some goals that, as a Blades fan, broke my heart because it was too perfect. And he was the reason that they were scored. I think he got at least one that was maybe a bit of a nail in the coffin in that series that sent the Warriors to the final, where they ended up sweeping the Prince George Cougars and sent the Blades home. So, yeah, I think he is definitely one who could really rise up. Another WHLer I think worth keeping an eye on is Josh Ravensbergen. Speaking of the Prince George Cougars, he had an incredibly, I think, underrated season last year. He lost 4 games. That's it. 26 wins, 4 losses, 1 overtime loss, I guess. So 5, sure. He had a .931 save percentage in the playoffs. And sure, the Cougars made the final, but you don't, like, a lot of goalies have numbers that suffer in the playoffs. You kind of win in spite of it. He was a massive driving force getting them to that final. And yeah, just really, really solid. I think there's a chance he could usurp Jack Ivankovic for the first goalie taken. We'll have to see. There's a long season yet, but those are 2 guys that I'm definitely going to be watching as this season progresses.
Yeah, well, especially with goalies, because there is now, I mean, for this draft, there could be a first round pick for a goaltender for a first time in a while. So that's
Actually,
going to be
too.
definitely something to watch for sure. Peter, what about you? Anyone you're really watching in any of the leagues, draft eligible or otherwise?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 3, and I'm gonna pick one from each of the CHL. Obviously the first one is going to be Cameron Schmidt. He was in my top 30 early, way too early top 32, and he's still there right now, 27th. We talk about, you know, player height, how that's usually a factor for teams, but this is basically a non-factor for him. I mean, he just powers his way through. He's got that mindset, he's got that drive, the work ethic where everything he does is just basically effortless. And you look at 5'8", 152 pounds, he really shouldn't be able to handle himself on the ice, but he pretty much does. And we talked about the likes of, Zach Benson, Logan Stankoven, all these, smaller players, but they're still able to handle themselves and they have the skill set to get them out of tight situations. Cameron Schmidt could do that and he could really rip the puck. I think he's already up to 4 goals already this season, or 3 goals. Either way, he's finding the back of the net early on, and he's going to continue doing that this season. Had 31 last year. He's well on pace to, surpass that. So I'm going to be interested to see the big step that he can take. In the OHL, I am picking Philip Ekberg. He signed his OHL scholarship and development contract with Ottawa 67s. Making his ways overseas. He's had some pro experience. I think he just makes the 67s much more deep. Playmaking ability is very on point. He maneuvers well in small spaces. He's got great control. I'm just ready to see what he's able to do more so in person, and that I have the ability to watch Ottawa 67 games now. Ekberg's in the fold, and I'm going to see what he can do because he's a very, very entertaining player to watch. And in the queue, it's Justin Carbonneau. Put up 31 goals last season. Really creative, dynamic, plays at a fast pace. He excels at, he just finds the open lanes very, very easily. And he's already got a pro size as well, 6'1", 190. When you have that 6 feet factor and 190 pounds, you could hold your own. And he does fend the puck or defend the puck very well. He uses that size to his advantage in a lot of difficult situations, and he's able to power through most of the time. So, despite having that power forward element, he's got a ton of skill to boot, and I'm really excited to see what he could do this season.
Three great picks. I mean, those three we're gonna, of course, watch throughout as well, and we'll see if their names come up in our prospects of the week too. So, Dayton, I'll let you. I restricted you to the WHL. I'm not sure why, but no, I know why.
That's okay.
Do you want to mention anyone else from the other leagues?
No, I'll stick with my dub.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you the opportunity, just
Well,
to
thank you. I
throw it
appreciate
up.
it.
Other people want to talk about. All right, let's before we move to our prospects of the week, the first edition of this season. Peter, is there anyone that you've seen in the preseason or rookie camps or anything? Obviously, probably going to be a Maple Leaf, but is there anyone that you've seen that's really impressed you that you're going to be watching, see if they can build on it in the preseason and maybe make the team? I don't know, but just that has impressed you so far.
I am not going to say Nikita Grebenkin because I have talked about him way too much. I really feel that he has a chance to make the team. He had a fight last game. He looked really strong. He even hyped the crowd. I think that just solidified his spot on the team, but I'm going to move away from that. Um, in terms of prospects at camp, I mean, the way that Lane Hudson is just playing right now is
Oh,
absolutely insane. I think that I never usually go the easy route, but I have to go the easy route this time because this is the guy that's just dominant right now. And with the Habs looking to take that big next step forward, where you have a lot of veteran presence, you got their core in place. He's going to be a part of that core very, very soon because he's just so dynamic. And even during like a lot of the rookie or the prospect showcase or showdown that that happened between the Maple Leafs and the Canadians, he was just absolutely dynamic every single time. He was making something happen, and even like scrimmages, he's like making all these, midair saucer passes that's just cleanly getting to his teammate. It's absolutely phenomenal what he's able to do. I'm curious to see how he's going to. I mean, I think this a spot on the team is very much in the cards. If he's able to get past the 9 games, it's because of that skill set. It's very much evident. So again, don't want to pick an easy answer, but to me, it's hard not to overlook what Lane Hudson has done.
well, I mean, I think he's making the team. I mean,
Mhm.
and I don't know what role, if he's going to be in the top four or anything for the Canadians this season. I mean, there's been talk of is it better he plays in the AHL to start? But I mean, if he impresses enough in the preseason, why would you not have him start with the team? So we'll see if he can continue that throughout because it's been very early in the preseason. It's Montreal will have a few more games here to see if he can build on it. Dayton, what about you? Is anyone that's kind of impressed you in the early going, whatever tournaments, rookie tournaments, preseason?
Yeah. There's been a lot of guys who have been very impressive, I think. Lane Hudson, like that's a guy who I think I have mentioned before could challenge for the Calder Trophy,
Yeah.
not the Calder Cup. That's that's different. Um, Two guys that I think jump out to me, Matt Coronado, not really a prospect anymore, depending on your definition, 34 games last season with the Calgary Flames. But he currently leads the preseason scoring with 5 points and 3 goals, and definitely looks like he could snag a prominent spot. Excuse me. Um, can snag a prominent spot on the Flames this season, especially with the team kind of going through what I guess a retooling. They're not stripping things down entirely, but we'll see how that goes. They have a lot of really good prospects. Coronado is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Second guy, I have to mention him because I do write about the Senators quite often. Carter Yakimchuk scored
Oh
a
yeah.
gorgeous goal against the Leafs. Sorry, Peter.
It was a fantastic goal.
It was so pretty. He's definitely solidified his spot as the Senators' top prospect. Like, there's no question if there ever was. Um, he's got so much dynamicism to his game. He he rushed that. He was basically the driver of that entire play.
Mhm.
He goes around Austin Matthews. He catches Mitch Marner just kind of flat-footed,
Yeah.
and then goes around the veteran Jake McCabe and puts it in by Matt Murray.
Yeah.
That's like that's something that I've seen him do several times in the WHL, didn't think the NHL would be one of those places I'd see it so soon. Anyways, it's like he's just 18 years old. Um, yeah, he's not making the team. I'd put money on that, but he is a fantastic prospect, and that was such a great showing.
Yeah, Yakimchuk said, I mean, that played, he looked like an NHL defenseman, a forward. I mean, like, and
Yeah.
that's a move a forward usually would make. Yeah, that he was very impressive. Not just on that play, he was impressive all game. I think he was probably one of the Senators' best players. But I mean, preseason it was against the Maple Leafs, pretty much full lineup though. So I mean, that's something to note.
Mhm.
So I mean, he did play against an NHL team. It wasn't a bunch of rookies, a bunch of prospects. So yeah, I don't think like I agree. I don't think he's making the team at all, but he's showcasing definitely why he was a high pick and why we were talking about him all draft year of him being one of the top guys. So yeah, big game for him. We'll see what else he can do throughout the preseason too. I'm gonna mention Jonathan Lekramaki. I'll say his name correctly because it's not Lekramaki. He's been. I mean, he hasn't played a preseason game yet. That'll be tonight as we're recording. But he was very impressive at the Young Stars tournament. Probably one of the Canucks' best players. Was prominent in every game. I mean, he played. He played on what's probably going to be the Abbotsford Canucks top line, and Arshdeep Bains and Atu Ratu is probably going to be the top line, and he was really good. He showcased his shot. Of course, we all know how good a shot he has. He's I don't think again he's probably not making the Canucks, although there's a lot of fans that want him to. He is going to be playing with Jake DeBrusk and Elias Pettersson in the preseason, at least one game. So we'll see how he does. But I mean, obviously, it'd be great if he makes the team and he's good, but I don't think he's ready to be in a top six role in the NHL yet. I think you give him an AHL, a lot of minutes in the AHL on a top line, prominent power play minutes, all that, and then maybe make the team next year. But he was really good at the Young Stars, so I'm hoping he can continue that into the preseason too. All right, let's go to our first prospects of the week. There's not a huge sample size for these, but of course, we can talk about anything from preseason, although I think we may have done that already. But we can do a prospect of the week. So, Peter, I'll start with you. Who is your prospect of the week for our first one?
I'm going to be breaking the rules here, and I'm going to do prospects of the week. And I am going to the Sunday game between the Philadelphia Flyers and Washington Capitals, where both Jet Lachenko and Matvei Michkov had 2 assists each. Obviously, again, it's preseason. It doesn't mean a whole lot for anybody, but it means a lot to prospects to make a statement and to stand out in a big way. Obviously, with those two being kind of like the top three, or being in that top three of the team's top prospects. I think you could even add Oliver Bonk in there as well to round that out. At least I think so. To see Lachenko be a higher than normal pick, where maybe a lot of people thought he was probably taking a little bit high. I've talked about his playmaking vision. He looked great. I know we talk about Matvei Michkov and his dynamicism of scoring goals. He's got that playmaking element as well. So he's being more of a versatile offensive threat. So to see those two hit the score sheet and get both get multi-point games, I think it's a good step for the Flyers and both of them to try and make that statement.
For sure. I mean, Michkov, of course, is making the team. That's 100%. But yeah, I think, geez, I mean, the Flyers are going to be a really good team. I mean, they may be pretty good this year, but they've got some pretty interesting prospects coming up, and those two are definitely two of them. I mean, Lachenko's probably not making the team, but Michkov is going to be really good this season. Dayton, what about you? Prospect of the week?
Well, I won't break the rules. I'll stick with
I'm a rebel.
one.
I'm a rebel this week.
That's okay. I'm gonna go with somebody that probably nobody listening has ever heard, unless they are from Saskatoon. Willie James scored his very first WHL goal on Saturday. Fantastic goal. He is eligible for the draft this season. He's on the older side. He's a September late September birthday. And yeah, he is kind of setting himself up to be a top option for the Saskatoon Blades this year. They lost a ton of their offensive power from last season, especially, when you have Yegor Sidorov scoring 50 goals for the first time in a lot of years for the franchise. Trevor Wong, he unfortunately never drafted, but he hit the 100-point mark last season. And both those guys are gone. A couple other guys, just there's a massive gap. Willie James looks like he could be one of their top goal scoring options. He was all over the net on the Saturday night game. He just has a real intense drive. He has a really good work ethic, and I think that could really pay off for him, especially he's playing on the wing. The Blades definitely have some openings on the wing that could help them out. So yeah, if you want to read more, there's an article coming out. He's featured in it.
Yeah, I seem to remember just reading that. So yeah, he's he's going to be one to watch for sure for the Blades this season. I'm going to go with a guy I just kind of mentioned, Atu Ratu, as my prospect of the week. He has been very impressive. Young stars, and in scrimmages, in the practices that have been for the Canucks already, he looks very much stronger than last season, a lot quicker too, and he could make the team out of training camp because of some of the injuries that the Canucks are dealing with. And he's been playing on a line, on a third line, quote unquote third line, with Garland and Höglander in practice, and he's going to be playing in the preseason game tonight too, on that line. So he could potentially start the season on the third line for the Canucks. And he was, of course, the big prospect piece in the Horvat trade. And I really want him to be successful this season. He had a bit of time when he was traded to the Canucks, but wasn't really impressive. He had a really good AHL season last year, was probably one of their best players in the second half of the season. And he looks he just looks a lot more improved. Looks like he had a really good offseason training. So I'm excited to see what he can do in the preseason. And he was really impressive to me over training camp so far. So he is my prospect of the week for this week. All right. Well, there's an episode of Prospect Corner. Thanks, Dayton. Thanks, Peter, for coming on the show, talking prospects as always. We'll have, of course, some great stuff coming up as we have more preseason to kind of go from for some of the prospects. And we'll see if anyone else really impresses us as the week goes on. But until our next episode, we will see you next time.